And David, the meeting is all yours.
Okay, so apologize for not being quite ready. So you wanted me to talk about what we did for our virtual court of honor. So we've done actually two courts of honors since COVID, and one of them actually was virtual. Um, and that one was okay. But the one that I think is more interesting is the one that we did that was recent and was distanced but live. Um, and so that was actually not virtual, and I thought it went really well. And I actually don't want to take credit for it. I tried to get the scout. We always have our scouts organize the courts of honor with guidance from adult leaders, and I worked with a scout. They do this in part to fulfill their communications merit badge requirements. Um, and I worked with a scout for quite a while trying to figure out how this was going to work. And it was originally kind of planned for, I think, November, and it got bumped and bumped a number of times. And we ended up having it in January. Um, and let's see, I don't know if I can share, maybe I can. Let me, I think, give me one moment. I want to share some pictures from, oh, am I allowed to, if you're recording, share pictures?
Yes, as long as the scout, this is my understanding, as long as the scout isn't part of the presentation.
Okay, got it. All right, then let's see, let me pull up the Corporate Troop website where we have some pictures. And we'll share this. So here we're looking at the pictures that one of our adults took of the Court of Honor, and it was held at Vlodel Donovan Park here in Bellingham. And what we did was, again, this was primarily organized by the scout who's shown there in jeans. Um, and and so we found a place after considering a number of other places, including school parking lots and church parking lots. We ended up, that's the leader, the scout leader. We ended up at Bloedel Donovan Park over kind of on the far side, away from the kind of clubhouse and things, to stay away from folks as much as possible. We left a space, or at least that was the goal. I'm not sure if everybody adhered to that, but the goal was to have a space between cars, an empty parking space, and people connected up through a shared Zoom that we do our Zoom meetings, our Zoom troop meetings. So we just used that same Zoom, and everybody kind of called in and logged into the same Zoom, so that they didn't have to be able to hear. They could sit inside their car with their windows closed, and listen. And so you probably can't see that. I think he was just prepping. No, that must have been during the thing. So there, that's part of the same family. That's the mom. Actually, let me go back one. So come on. Okay, there we go. So this was our guest speaker. We always have a guest speaker, and this is their friends. They're in the same pod. So this is the scout who organized it. That's the guest speaker in the blue shirt, and that's the scout's mom. So this is all COVID safe, and she was holding the phone, which had the camera, and so everybody could see and hear the guest speaker from safety. And that seemed to work out pretty well. Technically, there's always a few glitches, but it worked out pretty well. We had decent enough service there, and so the coverage was pretty good. And so that's part of the Court of Honor. Of course, a big part is recognizing scouts for their achievements. And here's a good example. The troop advancement coordinator had prepackaged. What you're seeing there is the mom um, handing a Ziploc bag with patches and stuff in it to actually me, I think. And that's for the achievements earned by that scout. So there was a per family kind of pre-made Ziploc bag with all of the scouts' achievements, and if they wanted to, they could just grab it. Otherwise, she would just put it on their car hood, and they could get it when they felt like it was safe. Um, and and that seemed to work out pretty well. And this was all pre-planned. This took some thinking hard about in advance, and it took preparation on the part of the advancement coordinator to get this all pre-packaged and pre-staged. But it went well. We had to adapt our normal format. Normally, we would like pull up everybody who got a certain merit badge and then ask them collectively about their experience in that merit badge and what they liked or didn't like or what have you, or one person in the group would answer some questions about it. But that was not conducive here, and so instead the scout in charge asked over Zoom each family to kind of talk about of the advancements that they had earned, which things they felt were notable, which they liked the best, or something like that, just to have it be participatory the way it normally is in our group. And so that also worked out pretty well. I think it helps that we do regular Zoom meetings, and so we just tagged onto that, and so a lot of people had experience with that, even on their phones. And B, just a few weeks earlier, we had done actually about a month earlier, I suppose, we had done the envelope drop for the Christmas tree pickup event, where we go out in December and drop off envelopes for folks in our area from whom we will be picking up Christmas trees. And so that lets them know, of course, what's going to happen and offers them a chance to know where to donate. And at that event, we had, with some moderate difficulty, technically, set up the same kind of phone-based Zoom thing so that we didn't have to all congregate in the parking lot, and people could get their marching orders safely in their cars. And so we worked out some of the kinks there a month beforehand of doing this Zoom-based, phone-based Zoom conference, kind of on the fly, out where there wasn't anybody hosting it with a computer. It was relatively short compared to most courts of honors that we've done live and in person in the past. But I think that the scouts got something out of it, more than they got out of the purely virtual one, which we did. Oh gosh, when was it? Late summer, I think it was, maybe. And so here she is going to various different vehicles, dropping off the Ziplocs. Oh, that's the son of the advancement coordinator, also running bags full of patches out to cars as well. And we're back to the beginning of the pictures. So overall, I count it a success, and part of it was that the scout in charge did a really good job messaging in advance. He sent out maps of the parking lot where, blocked out where we wanted the cars to park. And so people had all of that. And he did a good job managing the speaker. He was a real trooper, because the first thing that we wanted to do didn't work. He had to go out and physically go out to these places, make sure they had decent coverage for cell service. And so he did a really good job. That's him in the jeans right there. So I give the scout most of the credit, and I'm just relaying what he did to you guys. So I think that's all that I have in terms of presentation, but I'll happily answer any questions if people have them.
I actually have a couple questions. Did you guys, probably not because I didn't see pictures, but did you guys do a flag ceremony?
We did. There weren't pictures of it for whatever reason. Our photographer didn't manage to get it, but yeah, we did do a flag ceremony. And what we did for that was the two flag bearers were in a pod, not with the scout leader who did the kind of announcements and the talking part of it, but he kind of stood back far away from them and masked up, of course. So we did a flag ceremony and it went well, and I think everybody felt like it was safe.
So when you say they were in a pod, I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
Meaning that in their normal life, they hang out together
Okay.
outside of scouts.
All right. Got it. And then my other question was, did you guys do any sort of like lighting of candles or anything for the ranks or not?
That is not traditionally part of our troops' court of honor. So.
Okay, and I knew not everybody did that, and
Right.
when you're outside, it doesn't, might not work with the wind and stuff. But
right.
yeah, I was just curious about that. Okay.
Sure. But I mean, we could have. It wouldn't have been dark, but like we could have done
Right.
that. But yeah, that's just in terms of somebody else thinking about this logistically. I imagine they're well, I don't know how it's usually done by other troops, if scouts come up one by one or what have you, but I think that there are lots of ways where this kind of setting could be adapted to other aspects of a court of honor ceremony that one chose to do. And I
Yeah.
should also say we got really lucky with the rain. You can see the ground is wet. It had been raining. I think it rained later that day or the next day, but it wasn't raining when we were there, so that was lucky. I think somebody had brought one of those pop-up shelters that we could have used if we had needed it. That was definitely part of the planning and the site consideration. Originally, we were looking for a place that had big open parking, easy visibility, good cell, and a covered area at one end, so that we would have the table and such be out of the weather. We ended up not needing that, but if the weather had been bad, I think it would not have gone off as easily as it did, as well as it did.
There is a question in chat wanting to know if there were any issues with families and the internet access.
No, I don't think so. No, actually, everybody was able to get decent cell, and everybody who came. I'm pretty sure all of the families have smartphones with cell service, and there was sufficient cell service for everybody to get online with decent enough service to get audio and video through their phones. So nobody reported any problems in that regard.
Okay.
Dave, so this was essentially done as a drive-in event, right? If I'm understanding correctly,
Yes.
By and large, really you had isolated scouts that had kind of already been working together, and they had this this kind of prearranged process by which you do your flags and your other, but everybody else was doing this really from their vehicle.
It was definitely the paradigm here was a drive-in court of honor. Yeah.
Your power issue aside, we've been doing drive-in events using a little FM transmitter with just a microphone on a 3.5 mil jack.
Oh, that's
that eliminates that that internet issue, but obviously adds I need something to plug my transmitter into. But
right.
we picked up one for like $120 on Amazon, and it's just been a blast. It's been a charm.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
So I do want to say, we've done these too, and calling it a drive-in court of honor made it more exciting for the scouts and the parents. And so we had everybody show up. And like you say, you've got to figure out how your cars are going to be. But I have one question, because this was a little controversy for us about your flag ceremony. We didn't do it because the person in charge did not feel that family should be doing the Pledge of Allegiance sitting down. So did you have the people in their cars participate, or did you just do this a flag ceremony where those that were in the ceremony did the pledge?
We didn't specifically require or set expectations in that regard. My recollection is that most people stayed in their cars and did the Pledge of Allegiance, and did their best to not put up their Scout signs and not hit the roof or what have you. But myself and a number of other folks got out of their cars so they could stand up and do it. So we just left that up to the individual's choice, kind of de facto, because we didn't tell them what to do in advance.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? I mean, actually, it sounds like it's a pretty easy process. Mary Jo, I know you guys did it. Did you do anything different?
We pretty much did the same thing, except how we passed out awards. He's got the picture of the table there. Maybe he can go to that. So our speaker was at one end of the table and had a helper who was part of the cohort. And we would take the awards and put them on the other end of the table. And when that scout was called up, and like you, we had all their awards together, the scout would come up and pick up their awards from the other end. So we were the 6 feet apart. And then the scout would have to go back, and we then sanitized the table. The other thing we did to help with sound is we have someone who has a karaoke machine. And so we were able to use that, but again, controlled how many people use the mic because of just transmission over using the mic and COVID. So you have to be careful if you use a mic. So that's probably the two things we did different, but it was extremely successful.
I am curious about doing that because we have an I don't know what you call it, but a speaker, thing that we could do the same type of, machine as the karaoke machine. Does that mean like everybody had to have their windows open and were they all able to hear very well, or was that an issue?
We still did it over Zoom.
Oh, did you?
And so nobody had any trouble hearing it because they could, the computer was there with the Zoom, so they could hear it. The karaoke machine helped the computer pick up the sound, so it just carried over really nicely onto everybody's phone in their car, because we were required to have our windows rolled up by our chartered organization. I don't know what kind of rules you had, but ours was pretty early. We did ours like in October, so
Okay.
it was actually the first event that the chartered organization had allowed. And we had very strict guidelines that we had to follow, of which one was all car windows had to be rolled up.
Well, so then did the karaoke machine just act to amplify?
Yes.
Over Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder how much with the new guidelines allowing outdoor activities where we're able to do hikes and guided activities and the like with some degree of participation. You get 12 people in a participation cohort. I wonder what realm of kind of pushing that boundary we have safely in this regard. Obviously, a ceremony like this is not similar in nature to a hike, but I just wonder whether or not there's methodology where we could do something with some guided hike through where scouts and their families do a hike and stop at a station to receive their awards. I'm just curious as to if anybody else has had those kind of thoughts. I guess just me. Apparently, I'm mine.
Yeah.
So we check with our chartered organization on anything we do. right now, if we do anything at their location, and even if we do things not at their location, anything we do outside, we get okayed by our chartered organization. And they have a copy of the recent guidelines that Mount Baker Council put out. So we have to have their approval for anything we do. And they've been very, very gracious because we've followed the rules.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or ideas, thoughts?
More people need to do them. They're easy. It's great. I mean, don't you think, Dave, that?
Yeah. I mean, you know, once we found the right location, I thought it came off pretty easily. And yeah, so if this story helps other people to make this happen, that would be great.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks for the
Dave, thank
invitation.
you. Thank you so much for doing this. I am going to end the recording.